Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham blog and to this weekend's Premier League match preview. Today I'm going to be talking about the team news, predicted lineups, key stats and what to expect from tomorrow's game against Leicester. I'm going to put timestamps in the description for all those different things, so if you want to go and check out anything in particular, head down to the description and it'll tell you where to go from there. If you are new to this channel, I do different interactive live streams, match previews, reviews and breaking news videos, so if you want some more of that content, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and click that notification bell. So to get straight into things, Tottenham released their official team news for this game yesterday. As reported by Alistair Gold after that game in Greece on Wednesday, Tottenham have confirmed Ryan Sessegnon has reported irritation in his hamstring, which was ahead of that game against Olympiacos. So he suffered a minor setback in that injury, and that irritation is why he didn't travel with the squad to Greece. Officially, he's going to be monitored ahead of this game. He may be available for selection, but it's not looking particularly likely at the moment. As we're all aware, Giovanni Lo Celso remains sidelined. He picked up a hip injury on international duty with Argentina a couple of weeks ago in a friendly against Chile. He will return to training towards the end of October, so it might be mid-November before we see him back in the starting team. Interestingly, in this team news, there was no mention of Juan Foyth. Now, we know he picked up an injury against Bayern Munich in pre-season and has missed the beginning of the season so far, but there was no mention of him being injured, which usually obviously is where they put this in, even if it is long-term injuries like we see with Giovanni Lo Celso. So I think Foyth might be available for selection, or he might face a late fitness test or something like that, but I do think it is worthy of mentioning that he wasn't mentioned in this team news. Danny Rose and Serge Aurier both missed out in the game in Greece on Wednesday. They didn't travel with the squad, but it's kind of been confirmed now that that was a tactical decision. There's no injuries there. They are both available for selection this weekend. And Tanguy Ndombele and Davinson Sanchez, who both missed out in the starting 11 last week, and Ndombele did come off the bench in the second half. They're both could be back in the starting 11, and Ndombele picked up a thigh injury in training before the international break, and Davinson Sanchez reported irritation in his ankle when he returned from that international break, but they both could return to the starting 11 tomorrow. As for Leicester, they have two absentees, Daniel Amartey and Matty James. Two midfielders are ruled out of the game tomorrow. Another doubt that they had was Ben Chilwell, but Brendan Rodgers has said he has passed a few fitness tests and he is available for selection. So not much to note there for Leicester in terms of absentees. Now, my predicted lineup for Tottenham, I think and I hope we're going to see a number of changes from that dire performance in Greece on Wednesday. Of course, Hugo Lloris in goal. I think we're going to see further rotation in the full-back positions. I think we might see what we saw against Crystal Palace last week in Serge Aurier and Danny Rose returning to those full-back positions. Ben Davies, he didn't exactly do poorly against Olympiacos. It was just a very tough game for him. And Davinson Sanchez, I think, proved he's not a right-back. And we should stick to the main right-backs that we have there. Kyle Walker-Peters, I don't know if he will start, of course, just coming back from an injury. I think it would be better to play Serge Aurier, who showed against Crystal Palace just how good he can be in that position. I think we will see Pochettino revert to that 3 in the middle of the park that we saw earlier in the season. He has favoured the 4-2-3-1 in recent weeks, but I think he might go back to that with Winks and Ndombele and Sissoko in there. I think he might do that to kind of offer a bit of solidity that has been lacking in that position for a number of weeks now, particularly in that game against Olympiacos, where we looked really weak in midfield, and that's even considering Harry Winks' amazing performance. So I think that 3 in midfield might be the best option for us this weekend. I think Eric Lamela and Heung-min Son will both return to the starting 11. Son has had a really good start to the season since returning from injury. He got his first 2 goals last week against Crystal Palace, and he does have a phenomenal record against Leicester. He scored against them in Wembley in February, and of course scored in that 2-0 win away to Leicester last season. And Lamela, 2 goals and assists so far this season, on absolutely amazing form, and that certainly can't be ignored. I think Lucas would be unfortunate to miss out, but he can impact the game from the bench, which I think is where he will be better utilised in a game like this, away to possibly the best team in the league outside of the top 6. Ali and Eriksson, absolutely awful, both of them in Greece on Wednesday. Eriksson more so than Ali, and they certainly need a wake-up call, and maybe going back down to the bench could be that for them. But we have seen it from Pochettino in the past. When players are in bad form like this, he might decide to play them from the start to kind of give them a chance to rectify the situation and not have him sitting on the bench and leaving that bad form go on for another week, because it probably won't play against Colchester next week. So it could go either way there with Pochettino. And of course Harry Kane up front, an easy decision for now, but I think if his I don't want to say bad form because he has been scoring goals, but if his performances kind of continue, it it doesn't seem as though his place is 100% guaranteed up there, and he seems to be getting a bit complacent, and hopefully that will turn around pretty quickly. Now, looking at a few different Leicester websites, blogs and all that, and kind of going for their predicted 11, it seems as though they will play a 4-2-3-1, Kasper Schmeichel in goal. The fourth at back is more than likely going to be Ricardo Pereira, Soyuncu, Evans and Chilwell, who is of course available for selection. The holding two in midfield will be Hamza Chowdhury and Wilfred Ndidi, and then Mark Albrighton, Yuri Tielemans and James Maddison playing behind Jamie Vardy. And of course that is... that could very well change. That's a 4-2-3-1, but they have played a bit of a 4-1-4-1 under Brendan Rodgers as well, so there's a lot of room for manoeuvre in there. But even with that team, which does sound really, really strong and has a very good midfield in there, there's still players on the bench like Harvey Barnes, Damari Gray, Dennis Prayet, and then Kelechi Iheanacho and Jose Perez who can play up front. So Leicester at the moment have an incredibly strong squad, and they certainly can't be underestimated, and it'll be a really tough game for us on Saturday, especially considering the kind of inconsistent form that we seem to have shown recently. Now, as for the key stats in this game, of course, as I mentioned, our last fixture against Leicester was in February. We beat them 3-1 at Wembley Stadium. I was lucky enough to be at that game myself, and I think on the day Leicester were probably better, but we were clinical. We took a 2-goal lead from Sanchez and Eriksen. Vardy came off the bench, missed a penalty, but then scored a goal, and Heung-min Son got his almost traditional goal against Leicester late on to win that game for us. And when we played them away from home last season, we actually beat them 2-0 at the King Power Stadium. Heung-min Son scoring an exceptional long-range left-footed effort put us ahead just before the break. Then, as I'm sure we remember, Dele Alli's 50th goal for Tottenham, almost a carbon copy of his first one, which he did score at the same end in the same stadium against Leicester, against Kasper Schmeichel, across from the inside left channel, and a diving header at the back post from Ali. A very incredible moment, but of course that wrapped up that game for us. It's also important to note that Leicester haven't played since last Saturday, and we were in Greece on Wednesday, which isn't going to help us in any way, especially given the performance that we did show out there. But it seems as though this fixture has been, since 2014 when Leicester were promoted, a really, really interesting and exciting fixture. Leicester have scored more Premier League goals against Tottenham than any other side, and that's 44 they've scored against us. But they've only conceded more Premier League goals against Manchester United and Arsenal than they have against us. We've scored 48 against them, so we're just edging it in terms of the goals. Now, since Leicester moved to the King Power Stadium, they've played us there 6 times. They've won just one game, which was the season before last when we had that really awful run in between the two international breaks. They beat us 2-1 at the King Power Stadium. We've won 4 of those fixtures, including an FA Cup game the season that they won the league. We've won the last 3 Premier League meetings between the clubs, and we've won 4 of the last 5. So personally, I wasn't really aware just how good our record against them was, but we've really edged it over the last couple of years against them. And since Leicester's promotion back to the Premier League in 2014, this fixture has actually been the second highest scoring in the Premier League. There's been 40 goals in just 4 seasons worth of fixtures. Of course, that 5-4 at the last game of 2 seasons ago, and we beat them 4-3 at the King Power Stadium as well. I think their first season up in the Premier League, so some amazing fixtures in there. Only Liverpool against Arsenal has been higher scoring with 48 goals in that one. Harry Kane is another player who has an exceptional record against Leicester. He scored 13 goals in 12 games against them. Now, of course, Kane did have a loan spell at Leicester as well, so a lot of links between him and them, and that's more goals than he's scored against any other side, which I think is a very interesting note, because he has scored against every Premier League team he's played against, but he's hurt Leicester more than others. Now, the kind of important battles that I think we'll see in this game, Leicester's centre-back pairing doesn't put any confidence in any Leicester fan. They certainly didn't replace Harry Maguire when he left to join Manchester United in the summer, and they're playing Kagler Soyuncu and Johnny Evans in centre-back of late, and I think that will continue in this game at the weekend. As for Johnny Evans, he's really ageing now. He's getting towards the end of his career, and I think if we do start Heung-min Son, or particularly if we do go with the 4-2-3-1, I think we can play someone like Son, Lucas Lamela, kind of put him on Evans, and that could cause them a lot of problems in that regard. And from what I've seen from Kagler Soyuncu, he's not a great defender either. Maybe some high balls in on top of Kane, but I certainly think that is a place that we can hurt Leicester. I said it before the game against Olympiacos as well. Power in midfield could really help us in this one. It was missing in that game in Greece. I know I've said Winks' performance was absolutely sensational, but one player can't change a game in that regard. Leicester's more than likely midfield pairing is going to be Hamza Chowdhury and Wilfred Ndidi. Now, they are good, really strong players, but they both lack experience at this level, particularly Chowdhury. And I think the trio I've predicted midfield, Winks and Dominic Sissoko, could certainly win that battle against them. And I think if we do go with that 3 in there, Leicester could really struggle to kind of get control of the game. Now, the predicted 11 that I have for Leicester, it's not a very pacey team, but there's a whole lot of creativity in there. Yuri Tielemans, James Maddison, even Ben Chilwell from fullback. They have an amazing squad. There's no doubt about it. They really do have an incredible team in place there. And if they'd rather opt for pace, they have Demarai Gray, as I mentioned, Harvey Barnes, Iheanacho, Jose Perez. They could go with anything in this game, and it's a really, really worrying thing for Tottenham to be looking at. And because of that versatility, it's so difficult for Tottenham to prepare for a game like this. And like for Pochettino picking his 11, see, going to a place like Leicester, he kind of have to adapt to what they want to do, because you do kind of get the feeling that Leicester will control this game on Saturday, which is really disappointing to say as a team who were in the Champions League final last season, to be playing a team who don't even have European football and be so worried that they will control the game. If we don't improve defensively from what we've seen so far this season, we'll be punished, and there's no doubt about that. And again, it's a really, really worrying thing to be going into. Now, my prediction for this, as I've said, extremely tough game, and I don't think we will outperform Leicester, but I think we may have to depend on the ruthlessness that we've offered this season, particularly when you're looking at those games against Manchester City and Olympiacos, and that first half against Crystal Palace as well. Even though the performance was there, we took our chances when we got them, and obviously that made the difference in that game. I can't see us keeping a clean sheet. Again, it's not a good thing to have to mention, but I really can't see us keeping a clean sheet. It's just a matter of whether or not we can outscore Leicester, which has been the case in a few of the fixtures that we played, that 5-4, the 4-3 as well. I would predict, as I said, a really, really tough game, but I think if we can grind out a 1-1 draw, it would be hard to look at that and be disappointed, but I'm not particularly looking forward to this game tomorrow, but if we show up, we can win it, but it's just a question of whether or not the performance will be there, and that's, I suppose, the big worry that we've had for the last 12-18 months, but only time will tell, to be honest. Don't forget to leave your comments down below, your opinions and predictions on this game, down your predicted scoreline, predicted lineup and all that. If you have enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Thanks for watching.